Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be doing the mid-year book tag. Before jumping into the tag though, a big thank you to Book of the Month for working with me on today's video. Book of the Month is an online book subscription service where you have 5 to 7 books to choose from every single month for an affordable price. They're always brand new, they're always hardcover, and they really emphasize both emerging authors and the authors that a lot of us are aware of. And because of the fact that their service is so curated and they have a staff and team of people that are reading through so many different books constantly, they're able to sift through a lot of it and bring to you the books that are going to be talked about within each genre. Another great thing is Book of the Month has since started an audiobook service as well. So each month you can put your credit either toward one of their hardbacks or you can pick up an audiobook. And you also have access to a catalog of audiobooks and a catalog of some of their hardbacks from previous months as well. For the month of June, I selected 1-star romance. Fun, hijinks, and chemistry abound when a struggling artist and a stern academic butt heads over a 1-star book review. For an add-on, I also selected the rom-commers. This swoony story is a beautiful ode to love, lovers, and love stories. And then, because of course my heart belongs with fantasy, I saw that they had The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo available as an audiobook, so I went ahead and downloaded that one as well. If you're interested in checking Book of the Month out, you can get your first book for $9.99 using the code BREEZE. I'll have all of the information linked in the description bar. Now on to today's video. Jumping into it, the first question is, what is the best book you've picked up this year? And I'm not just going to say book, I'm going to say entire series, which would be the Age of Madness trilogy. I already probably would have answered this with a little hatred, even if I hadn't finished the trilogy, but the trilogy as a whole is so good that it's just, I almost want to say every single book, but I'm just going to say the Age of Madness trilogy as a whole. It is absolutely phenomenal. I did a whole video where I talked about sort of a retrospective of the First Law trilogy and then looking at A Little Hatred, and then it's also a little bit of a non-spoiler reading vlog as I get through A Little Hatred. There's several quotes where as I was reading through it, I would take a picture and then I'd send it to my husband and I'd be like, isn't this such a good quote? And I'm trying to get Sean to read it because I actually think, excuse me, sorry, right before I started this video, I was eating some almonds and apparently they're stuck in my throat a little bit. But anyway, I'm trying to get my husband, Sean, oh my gosh, apparently it's only when I talk about my husband. I'm trying to get Sean to read it. That's all I'm trying to say, because I think he would genuinely really enjoy it. And he actually was like, some of the quotes that you've sent me remind me of Kurt Vonnegut. And I'm like, oh, are we getting there? Are we gonna get him to read it? So fingers crossed that Sean will give it a shot at some point. And I've told him, like, you don't have to read the first trilogy. I can just fill you in on some stuff if you really want. But yeah, just jump in. It's so good. I haven't even really talked about it much as far as its plot or its characters or its writing, but it's in part because it's a continuation series, so I don't want to spoil anything. Really, this series blew me away in basically every way possible. I thought that the writing was clever, it was witty, but at times it was really wise, it was cheeky, it was great in its delivery. I also felt like the pacing was exceptional. I thought he made some artistic choices that I really, really enjoyed, because making artistic choices in stories is always taking a chance. There's always that line of, okay, this leaned into pretentious, or it leans into kind of cringy or feeling really heavy-handed, and I felt like the artistic choices, specifically with the Little People chapters, was great, and I really thought I really was surprised in how he was able to take these characters that are not actually main perspectives in the story, but then really flesh out the severity of what's transpiring, yet the actual main characters he's focusing on are despicable people, most of them. He does have a way of making you start to root for certain characters you don't expect to root for, which is brilliant in and of itself. But he manages to go through the lens of what are kind of sort of the villainous characters in these scenarios, because you're looking at the sort of Industrial Revolution look at a fantasy society that mirrors in a lot of ways a lot of things that transpire in our own society. It's great. This isn't going to be a review for that series, though. It's very good. I love it. I think maybe new favorite series. Not number one new favorite series of all time, but I mean, I think it's up in my top series of all time. And I really love it. And I feel like that's really hard to do when writing characters that aren't the Kaladins, you know, when they're not characters that you're like, oh, I love them. He doesn't really write those kinds of characters, and I'm a character-driven reader, yet the characters have so much life, and they feel so real that I'm like, but I still love it. It's so good. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Best sequel, and I'm not going to answer this question by just answering with the second and third books from that trilogy. I'll say other things. So best sequel, I would say Tyranny of Faith. I have yet, at the time I'm filming this, to read the third entry in this trilogy, but Tyranny of Faith, I thought, did everything you want a sequel to do. It expanded the world, it raised the stakes, it definitely made the scheming a lot more, I think, welcoming. Like, you feel like, okay, I have a little bit more of a grasp on this world, so I can kind of follow a little bit more of what's happening. I know the characters better. I just really thought Tyranny of Faith was great, and it kind of starts to bend the lines a little bit, blur the lines a little bit of whether it's simply just fantasy or if it's maybe a mix of other genres as well, which I really liked. Next up, we have a new release that you haven't read yet but want to, and that's going to be The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I meant to pick this up earlier, pretty much right when it came out, and I just haven't yet. So, The Familiar. Most anticipated release, Wind and Truth, obviously, right? I'm not probably breaking the mold with this one. I feel like so many people feel this, but that is my most anticipated release. Biggest disappointment. I don't have any issues answering this question on my side channel because I don't mind when a work is, maybe this sounds worse than I mean it to, but when there's something that clearly a lot of cooks have been in the kitchen to produce, like a movie, for example, I don't feel as bad labeling something as a disappointment because I'm like, well, it's not any one person's vision that I'm just hating on or labeling as disappointing, but rather it's just like the work in its entirety. It feels sometimes like a lot of people might have done a lot of really great things in the process, but then by having so many cooks in the kitchen, it didn't turn out as strong or as cohesive, or because there wasn't a single vision that it got too muddied. So I always feel bad when it's a book, but I'm still going to answer the question. I'm just saying. I probably didn't need to preface it with all that, but the book, Guns of the Dawn, excuse me. My friends like this story, so that in part made me really excited, and also the premise, I thought I was really going to enjoy it, and I didn't care for it for a number of reasons. I can't get over the hide and seek scene. I can't get over it to this day. That scene's gonna still just sit with me as one of the most bizarre moments in a story. And I did do a review for it, so if you're interested in wondering what I'm talking about, I'll have that linked. But Guns of the Dawn, it's not just that my friends liked it and that I thought I would like it. It's also such a BookTube darling. So many people really enjoy it. So I thought I would like it more. I am still open to reading a lot of other things by Adrian Tchaikovsky because I've heard really good things, and a lot of the other works seem very different from that one. So I'm excited to still read something else. Just that one in particular didn't end up working for me. I do want to say one additional thing about my not feeling as bad about calling something disappointing when it's not a book and primarily comes down to one person's work, but rather a lot of people's. Is it's not just a lot of people's, it's a lot of money. When you have millions of dollars to make a movie, you have millions of dollars. And when it kind of sucks or it's not as good as it should be for the amount of money that you're putting into it, I am like, I don't mind ripping it apart. Or I don't mind saying it was bad, in my opinion. I always clarify, things are always in my opinion. And I also will say, if you have, like in the case of a movie, I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent, but I'm just letting you know. If you have a movie as an example, and then you have a book has only the words on the page to deliver a story. You have to evoke emotion with those words. You have to create lush worlds. You have to create engaging plots. You have to create interesting characters. You have to do all of that with just words. You have nothing for people to hear. Obviously, if it's an audiobook, it's a little different. But I mean, you don't have sound effects. You don't have different human beings' voices in the picture. You don't have so many things when it comes to music that also evokes emotion. You take all of that away, and you take away the visuals. There's no beautiful scenery. There's no, what are usually, because it's movies, good looking people to look at. You don't have amazing action scenes. You have to write that even too. You have to create motion through the words. So when a movie can't even do what a book can do, and you had millions of dollars, that's why I have no problem whatsoever. And that's also why I'm really picky with movies. Movies to me, I'm curious to know. I actually would love for you to answer this question. Feel free to answer any of these questions. This isn't a tag question, but I'm just curious to know. Of all the mediums of stories, whether they be shows, movies, comics, anime, manga, well, anime is a show, but manga, books, all different kinds of stories, which one do you think has the potential to make the greatest of stories, and which one do you think actually makes the greatest of stories, and then which one do you think usually has the worst ones? I think movies. I think there's so many movies out there, and they have such high budgets, and I think a lot of times they don't tell as compelling of a story as a lot of books and video games and TV shows do. That was such a side tangent. Moving on. Biggest surprise. Probably Gideon the Ninth. Not because I didn't think I was going to like it, but because I thought I was going to be so confused that it would affect my enjoyment, just based off of how I'd heard people describe it. Because people would say, it's confusing, it's such a genre bender, you don't know what's going on, the character doesn't know what's going on, so you don't know what's going on. And I would say a lot of that is true, but the writing itself is not the reason why. I think that the idea that the character doesn't know what's going on and thus you don't know what's going on, it's weirdly like you're right there with Gideon, and Gideon's funny and a lot of times is just wandering around witnessing stuff and being like, whoa, what the heck? And then is also like, I really like having big muscles. I don't know. I really like Gideon, and the writing itself goes from beautiful to really stupid and dumb puns, and I loved the mix. And I wasn't expecting that either. I mean, I'd heard it was kind of weird, but I didn't expect that. It's very cheeky. Really enjoyed it. I just was surprised by what I ended up getting. I knew it was going to be out there. I just don't know if I realized just how out there it was going to be. Next up, new favorite author. So I know this is goofy to say, but I'm just going to say Joe Abercrombie, because even though I already really liked Joe Abercrombie's works, I think he is officially kind of a, no matter what he writes, I'm going to be interested in picking it up. Even though I would not probably as universally recommend First Law. And also it's grimdark, so there's certainly plenty of people that's not going to be their thing anyway. But man, Age of Madness is just so good that I'm like, all right, yeah, you made one of my favorite series of all time, and I am now excited to see whatever you do next. So Joe Abercrombie. Newest fictional crush. I don't think I have one from any book I've read. I can't think of one. I really sat and I ended up just writing question marks in my notes. So I'm just going to repeat what I said from doing this over on Full Meta Analysis, which is Ashitaka from Princess Mononoke. I loved Ashitaka so much. I don't think I actually answered that question when I did this over there. Hold on. What did I say? I would have said Ashitaka if I'd answered this. I definitely answered it for favorite characters. That's the wrong notebook. Ashitaka, though. Probably. I think Ashitaka is just a new favorite character, and he's awesome. So I guess that. New favorite character, though, is the next question. And Ash, because I always am going to probably have a soft spot for the animal companion, mythological creature companion, and Ash is an adorable dragon from the book Ascendant, and I loved him. He was so cute. So Ash. A book that made you cry. I don't really cry when I read. I do get really emotional, though. So Long Walk to Freedom, which was Nelson Mandela's autobiography. There were a number of moments, as you would expect in that were very moving and really gut-wrenching. So Long Walk to Freedom. A book that made you happy. Kiki's Delivery Service. It's so cute. It's so cute. I'm sure most of you know it through the movie. It is actually a book originally, and the book was absolutely precious. I loved it. After that, favorite adaptation that you've seen. I'm just going to say the same answer. Kiki's Delivery Service. The next question, favorite video you've posted, which I always think is a weird question because I don't know. But I hate watching myself. If there was a way that I could do the same thing, the same job, and somehow not be a part of it, if that makes sense. Like, I like the editing, and I like the sense of community, And I like getting to discuss a lot of the things I absolutely love, or just in general, a lot of things associated with stories. And I actually I enjoy making thumbnails. I hate the me part of it, though. I was this way when I taught private violin lessons, when I would host recitals for my students, because my students would be like, oh, you should play. And I'd always be like, no, because I wanted them to be the center of attention. I felt pride in having parents, you know, be like, wow, they played so well, or being so excited about their own child, or watching another student and being like, wow, that kid was really good. Whatever the case was, that was what made me really happy, not me getting up in front of other people and playing. So it's the same with filming. So it's really weird for me to be like, I really liked myself and what I said in this video. But if I had to go back and watch one of them, I'd probably go back and watch my How to Sell a Haunted House video. That was a video where I went in depth about the book How to Sell a Haunted House. And I'm not gonna lie, as conceited as this sounds, I think I made myself laugh while I was editing that video. And there's not too many instances where I have the opportunity to insert stupid humor into the videos I make, because more often than not, I'm trying to be informative. But there was like I will admit I was amused at myself for putting the Denny's photo as the end of the video. Anyway, I had fun with that one. That was a good time. But anyway, next question, most beautiful book you've gotten. I'm actually going to show it. I showed it in a book haul, but probably the Illumicrate Dark Star Burning Ash Falls White. More specifically though, what it looks like without its sleeve, because it is absolutely gorgeous. The first one's gorgeous too. Both of them are beautiful. The edges are beautiful. The artwork on the inside is phenomenal. So this book, I would say, is probably the most beautiful one I've gotten. Next up, what do you really need to read by the end of the year? So I'm going to do a check-in video, more than likely, where I'm going to go through various series that I said I wanted to start or wanted to complete, those sorts of things, as well as just some other goals or plans for this year, and look ahead a little more thoroughly besides just within this one question. So if you're the kind of person that likes that style of video where you revisit goals and kind of assess, then I will likely be doing that more so toward the end of June. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'll probably give some writing updates there as well for any of you that are very supportive and kind when it comes to my writing ventures. I will probably be talking about that kind of stuff in that video as well. So as far as what do I really need to read by the end of the year, the short answer is whatever things I put on my want to read in 2024 videos, basically. But that's it for the mid-year book tag. Let me know any of your thoughts on any of these questions. How would you answer them? What has been your favorite book you've read this year? Thanks so much for watching. A big thank you again to Book of the Month for working with me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.